What is good, physical Nintendo Switch collectors? My name is OJ, and welcome to the Buy Now Before Rare series. We need to definitely do these more as physical is slowly being phased out when it comes to Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, but I felt personally like I needed to get this video to you guys to talk about some of these Japanese RPGs and a bit more that definitely are being phased out and you might want to pick up now at this point or hold on to if you already have a copy. Now remember, in this series guys, we're going to go over games that are coming out. We're going to go over games that maybe we've touched on before and look at the current situation surrounding those games. So it's going to be a full encompassing trip on physical game collecting, which once again is being phased out. Nintendo themselves as well. More stuff is more digital and digital every single day. So I absolutely feel like these videos need to be a bit more frequent on my channel as all of us physical game collectors navigate on what we should be picking up before physical games just cease to exist at some point. But before we get into it, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get the latest on physical Nintendo Switch games, RPGs, and more. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the first game. I've covered this one before, and it is Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. Now the prices for this are starting to jump up. Square Enix seems to have no more copies, or at least they're very difficult to get from them. They're pushing digital when you go to their website, so I'm seeing anywhere from $94 to $150. Now it could even be higher depending on the type of version it is. There is a international multi-language version, and then there's also the ESRB version for here in North America or the US, and that can go for upwards of $340 brand new depending. Now if you have the big box set special edition, that can go for $500 plus, maybe even higher depending on what condition and all sorts of stuff. So if you have a copy of Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, even if it's not the ESRB edition, make sure you hold on to it because it could be worth a lot more in the future. And also keep in mind, guys, for some reason, ESRB or US versions of games are just worth more most of the time. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it's equal, but most of the time, ESRB version is worth more, or it's the one that we're looking at when it comes down to it. So for all my Final Fantasy fans out there, if you want a dope collection, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already had your eye on this, but I wanted to give an update on what's going on with Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, and if you should kind of like take the plunge right now, because it does seem like this game will be, physical wise, ESRB edition will be incredibly rare in the future, and we just don't know what Square Enix is going to do in the future. Now next game up is another Square Enix title, and this one's a bit more affordable. I've also covered this one as well, and that is Harvestella. It is $29.99. The prices for this game have started to drop and drop and drop. It was, I wouldn't say a flop, but definitely didn't sell incredibly well. The game has not dipped down to like super dirt cheap prices though. Like it hasn't hit under the $20 mark, even though the game necessarily didn't do incredibly good. I think that at $29.99, or even if you wait for Black Friday at $20, if they're just unloading the rest of the stock that they have, that will be pretty good for this type of game. Remember, it's like a console exclusive on the Nintendo Switch, a very interesting new IP. There's a lot of things in this game that kind of lend to say, okay, it's kind of unique, it's kind of different, and that it could be rare in the future. I don't think they're going to make a sequel to this or a follow-up. I think this just might be a one and done based off of what Square Enix has said about how they're shifting over to more about the big AAA games and the known brands. So I think stuff like Harvestella probably won't be made anymore unless there's a very weird or certain circumstance where somebody kind of comes in with some money. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this franchise or with this type of game. So I think that's why you might want to pick it up right now and have that physical copy just in case if it goes poof when it comes to them producing this type of game, you have yourself a copy and you got it for a decent price as well. Now next game up is a game that I'm pretty sure I've covered. I've covered this series before, and that is Disgaea 5 Complete. Want to update on this game, see how it's doing. And Disgaea 5 is such an interesting title because I know that there was times where it was under $44. Right now I'm seeing it at about 40 something dollars brand new. There's not a lot of copies of this floating around. You can get it cheaper secondhand depending on where you find it from, some of these secondhand sites, eBay and things like that. But if you want a new copy on Amazon, it's going to run you about $44. Now, this game came out many years ago. So when you see a price still hold up like that, oof, that tells me that this is probably going to be rare in the future. These Disgaea games, depending on which one it is, could be rare. So it's not just Disgaea 5, but the other Disgaea games as well. If you see a good discount on them, they're good to pick up physical. They usually have all of the game on the cartridge. You don't have to worry about extra downloads, but for the most part, they're all playable right then and there, right off the cartridge. So I do think that if you can get a new copy of Disgaea, still a bit pricey right now, and obviously $44.86 for Disgaea 5 complete, but it might be worth it in the future, as once again, these physical copies are starting to really be less and less relevant in the gaming market. Luckily for us though, Nintendo is still very relevant when it comes to physical games, so I do think that the physical games will continue for at least the next generation or two for sure. Now after that, who knows? But I think we're at least getting one more generation, and two more generations is probably more likely when it comes to physical games. Next up is a game that we've covered a while back, but I wanted to give another update on it just so you guys can kind of get this one, and that's Octopath Traveler. It is still brand new, $54.99 on Amazon. You can go on eBay, get it secondhand for some prices that are a bit lower, but if you want a new copy, you're going to be spending almost MSRP. So what does that tell me? Well, it tells me that the game is definitely going to be rare or already rare. There are not many new copies floating around there, and it's a game that I think people are absolutely going to want for their JRPG collections. Now, there is a special edition that is absolutely rare. That's hundreds of dollars right now if you want to plunge on that one. There wasn't a lot of those when it first launched. Like, it wasn't like those ones went on the market and then they got discounted. Like, people snapped those up ASAP. So Octopath Traveler was always a game. It didn't have low print when it comes to the physical copies. It just did so much better than I think Square Enix even thought that it was going to do on the Nintendo Switch, and they printed more. But then once that dried up, they kind of just said, okay, people are buying it digital. It got released on PC, so there was some other ways for people to play it. But I think that Octopath Traveler is still a good buy at this point, even for that price. I've been checking around, and yeah, there's just not a lot of copies of it, and it's still right up there around 60 bucks. I can see this game 10 years from now being one of those games that's worth like hundreds of dollars, just because I don't think, once again, Square Enix, in terms of their direction and everything, it's going to be interesting to see how they go with it. Now, in Octopath Traveler 2, we'll probably cover that more in depth. We've covered it before. We'll probably cover that more in depth a little bit later in the year, just to see how the prices are, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to pick up that game for cheaper now at this point. Octopath Traveler 1, if you haven't got it yet, definitely is a good time to pick it up if you're a collector. All right, next up, we're going to talk about a game that is not out yet, but I'm pretty sure will end up being rare, or it's a game that you're absolutely going to want to buy, and that is Super Mario RPG. Now, the original on the Super Nintendo is absolutely rare. You can get copies for like around $170. It's hard because the Super Nintendo has like those flimsy boxes, so it's tough to see a CIB, but if you do, like, they can be upward of $200, $300 plus, depending on the condition of those. But Super Mario RPG, obviously the Nintendo Switch version of the game, is not going to be that price at this point, right? 60 bucks for the game, but I think it's going to be a game down the line that we probably just won't see a lot of. I don't know what Square Enix, or more like Nintendo, I don't know what Nintendo's expectations are for this game. Heck, I don't even know who's developing the game in terms of the actual developers. Is Square Enix helping out? Is it just some of Nintendo's side team? What's going on? So there is mystery surrounding this game, and of course the physical copy is something that I feel, since it's an old school Super Nintendo style of game, old school Super Nintendo remake, you got to pick those up. Anytime that they bring over these big remakes, whether it's like Trials of Mana or if it's stuff like that, you just pick those up physical, especially if it's all right there on the cart, because those are the type of games where they just really don't print a ton of those. They make what people buy, then after a bit of time, people will just buy them on the voucher system or digital or however they want to get it. So to me, Super Mario RPG, absolutely pick it up. It's 60 bucks right now, but if you can wait a bit, if it's not like your favorite type of game, you can wait a bit and then get it later down the line. That's cool. We'll cover it again in the future, and we'll see how the market is probably in 2024 for the game, but it's absolutely going to be one of those games to have on your radar. So that's the reason why I brought it up in this video. I'm buying it day one, 60 bucks. I think it'll be worth it just because I've played the original game a million times. It's so good. But yeah, for those who are just looking to collect, absolutely keep your eye on Super Mario RPG in the future. All right, next up after that is Fire Emblem Engage, a game that came out earlier this year, and I think we've covered it. I'm not 100% sure, but that's why I like doing these and kind of going over stuff, because I'm sure a lot of you guys forget some of the games that we cover because we've done so many volumes at this point. So it's good to get a little bit of an update on how the games are looking. And right now, it's not too bad for Fire Emblem Engage. Obviously, it was a full price game when it first came out. There's some DLC as well that's not on cartridge, so keep that in mind. So Fire Emblem Engage, $44, not too bad. And Fire Emblem games are almost always like okay, buy them. They're probably going to be more rare in the future. We saw this with Fire Emblem Awakening. We've seen this with Fire Emblem Fates. We see this with the special editions and things like that. So if you can grab one of those special editions of Fire Emblem Engage, or you can just grab the game itself brand new, have that sealed, I would absolutely say do that, because Fire Emblem games just always turn out that way. Whether it's the GBA cartridges, whether it's the GameCube games, the Wii game, like they're always going to be rare. If you have the Super Nintendo Japanese imports and things like that, NES game, doesn't really matter. The DS game, like they're always end up turning out rare for some reason, one reason or another. Obviously, Fire Emblem Three Houses is another game that we've covered on this as well. We'll probably look at that a little bit later down the line when it comes to it, just because I know we covered it. But yeah, Fire Emblem Engage, definitely pick it up. $44, not bad. You'll probably be able to get it for cheaper at Black Friday. So just go ahead and wait. Black Friday is coming up as of the time that I'm recording this video, or Christmas, it's coming up here, or even the different deals that do at the beginning of the New Year's, right? So if you haven't already picked it up, you can wait. You'll probably be able to get it for like 30 bucks or so. They'll probably have it 30, 35 bucks, and that'll be a better price for it as we're really close to the holiday shopping season and everything. All right, next up, this is not an RPG, but I wanted to cover it anyway, just because I think you guys want to know about this, and that's Bayonetta, the series, like all of them. Bayonetta Origins, Sorcerer and the Lost Demon, we've covered that. That's about 40 bucks right now. Keep your eye on that game. It's probably going to be like 20 bucks Black Friday or the holiday. So just keep your eye on it. I don't think Nintendo and Platinum Games made a lot of those. I think they just pretty much did their original print run, and whatever is out there is out there. The game did not sell like gangbusters, but it's a good game. It's like a cult hit type of game. It's actually better than many people felt that it would be. So absolutely look out for that. Little bit pricey right now, but it will go down in price. Look out for that one. Then, of course, Bayonetta 3 as well. That's starting to drop down in price as we've actually hit the 1-year anniversary for that game. So shout outs to the Platinum Games and Nintendo for an awesome release of Bayonetta 3. That's about 43 bucks. Look out for that Black Friday shopping. That's probably going to be about 30 bucks. You can pick it up then. If you look at Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2 on the Switch, both of those games are over MSRP based on where you buy it, especially if you're buying it brand new, Bayonetta 2, or if you have like the collection that comes with Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2. Those are absolutely rare. So I think that the same thing is probably going to happen with the rest of these Bayonetta games. And if you have the whole set, how cool is that to have on your shelf? Bayonetta 1, Bayonetta 2, Bayonetta 3, and Bayonetta Origins, Sorcerer and the Lost Demon. So I do think that as a set, they could be worth a lot too way down in the future, because we just don't know how long the Bayonetta series is even going to be around. I mean, it's done a good job being around as long as it has, to be honest. But I'm hoping that Nintendo keeps that going. But we just don't know what the future holds, right? And these Bayonetta games have been rare before on the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo does not print a lot of Bayonetta copies. They just don't. So keep your eyes on that, guys. Next game is another title that we've covered, and that is Valkyrie Chronicles 4. This game is interesting because secondhand, it's actually pretty cheap. If you just want like a crusty copy on eBay, they've got those. You want a copy like CIB, they've got those. You want a new copy, a bit more pricier, $46. There's also a special edition that's not too bad on price either if you want to pick that up. But Valkyrie Chronicles is a game that has been always pretty much neglected somewhat by Sega. They released the first game, but then they didn't release the second and third game localized. You can play it. There's English patches if you really want to play it, but they didn't release those. But then they released Valkyrie Chronicles 4. It's like, wait, hold up. We missed the whole second and third acts. Like, you didn't really localize or put those games out. But then all of a sudden we jumped to 4. You should have called it something else. And then they tried to do something else, like with that Valkyria Azure Revolution or whatever that was. That was terrible. So this has been one of the most mismanaged franchises in Sega history. But Valkyrie Chronicles 4 is really good. If you want a new copy, absolutely pick it up now, because Sega definitely hasn't produced a lot of copies of this game, and it's probably done. I don't know what they're going to do in the future. I hope there's another game, but this series just might be done at this point. I mean, Valkyrie Chronicles 4 came out back in 2018, and there has been radio silence on that franchise. I mean, not even a single rumor. I've found nothing. So, I mean, I don't know. They might be pivoting away. It might be a dead franchise at this point. So, next up is Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition, and this one's not too bad on price. Secondhand loose, find it 20 to 30 bucks, brand new. It's still a good game to pick up if you can. It's Tales. It's got all the content on there. Everything's complete right there on the cartridge, and it's one of the better Tales games. It's actually one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Tales of game. And it's a title that, if you look at Tales of and what they're doing, they're kind of going in a different direction, right, when it comes to Tales of Arise and what that game is. So the older games absolutely become more of a, okay, this is what they used to do. And with the Nintendo Switch, you combine those real physical media and everything. I think that Tales of Vesperia in the future will absolutely be worth more than what you put into it, what you buy it right now at this point, especially how cheap it is. So it's absolutely a game to keep your eye on. If you can just get a used copy, or if you can find a new copy, it's harder to find a new copy out there, but if you can, definitely check it out on there. And last but definitely not least, let's talk about a game that is very controversial at this point. It's launching on November 2nd, and that is Star Ocean: The Second Story R. It's a $50 game, but we had some news come out from people on like Reddit or something like that, but apparently there's a download with the game. Now, Square Enix never told us anything about a download for the Nintendo Switch version of the game, but apparently there is a download. But there's confusion that Square Enix has not clarified at this point, and we don't know when it comes to the Play Asia version. So let's go ahead and let's break this down. So recently there was, hey, look, Star Ocean, it's coming out. It's going to be great on Nintendo Switch, the demo and everything like that. But then somebody got a copy of the game already, and it shows that there is a download. It's about 4 gigabytes. The game is about 12 gigabytes. They use the 8 gigabyte cartridge, so it's about a 4.1 gigabyte download. So people are thinking, man, you got to download part of the game. What's going on? Can I just play it off the cartridge? But it appears maybe that it's just multiple languages. Now, the game has a ton of audio. Obviously, they've enhanced the quality of many different things, so it could just be different audio languages. So this is a very interesting physical edition, because it can be like, okay, well, if you get the physical edition of the game, you pop in the cartridge, you can play it. If you just want the rest of those languages, you're just going to have to download those. So that might not be a big deal for some people. They're like, okay, yeah, like maybe I don't want to download those extra languages, so I can just play the game. Now, once again, this could be all wrong. By the time that you're watching this video, there could be clarification, and it could be all wrong that you actually need to download to be able to play certain parts of the game. Now, we don't know what's going on with the Asian version of the game. As of the time that I'm recording this video, I don't know what's going on with it. Like, it doesn't have that same download thing, whatever. So did they use a 16 gigabyte cartridge for that? Square Enix has always been using 16 gigabyte cartridges for most of their games. Live Alive, Octopath Traveler, Octopath Traveler 2, a lot of these games do have these 16 gigabyte cartridge or no download. Heck, for even some of their games, they've done 32 gigabyte cartridges, which are very expensive. Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, in addition to Final Fantasy X and X-2. If you got the Asian version of those had the bigger cartridges. If you have the Western versions, those have a download code for one of the games. So that could be the same thing for this one, where the Asian version is a bigger cartridge, but we're just going to have to wait and see. I just don't know at this point, but I have it on here to, one, inform you guys about that if you're going to buy this, but two, like, it still could be a good buy for the Asian version, or even the US version or the physical version if it's just languages as a download. So we'll see on that. So what are your thoughts on this, guys, on these 10 games to buy now before they are rare? What games are you picking up? What games do you want to see? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other buy now before rare videos right here on screen, and my big JRPG videos that I've done as well. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time. Peace.